All right, Nick, let's talk about the Texas Longhorns, a team who made it to the college football playoff last year. I think they're doing very well transitioning over to the SEC. I think this is a team that we are all looking forward to see how they're going to do next year. But before we focus on next year, let's focus on the here and now. Let's focus on spring practice and let's talk about some guys who have moved over to Texas and are really starting to stand out in spring ball. Let's get in the article, and then I want to hear your thoughts on this one on the other side. This, of course, is from Longhorn Country. It says the Longhorns still had some glaring position needs that they needed to address this offseason. One of those needs was at edge rusher, where the Horns struggled with consistency from time to time. Fortunately for the Horns, they addressed this shortcoming in a major way, signing five-star edge rusher Colin Simmons and UTSA transfer Trey Moore. As a freshman, it's unclear how quickly Simmons could impact the team next fall, and while the early returns on Simmons seem to be promising by all accounts, the more experience Moore looks to be more than living up to the hype early on. What I like about Trey, first of all, is his work ethic. You can tell he's a guy who comes into the program and has a chip on his shoulder, Sarkisian said. Trey has got something to prove, and I think there's some value in that in the portal when you can get a guy that's maybe not coming from an SEC school or a Big Ten school, and now they have something to prove. As well as talking about this guy has got something to prove, Nick. He's got that chip on his shoulder, and he's been showing out already early on in spring ball. I think this was a very good signing for the Longhorns. I'm curious on what your thoughts are, but Longhorns fans in the comment section below, I think this team is looking very good. I think they're easily going to repeat with the new rules to the college football playoff. I think they're going to make a deep run as well. But let's talk about spring ball. Let us know what position group you are most closely looking at during spring ball this year in the comment section below. But Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest transfer who's showing out for Texas?
I think it's absolutely critical that Trey Moore has a really strong start for Texas, and here's why. If you look at the fact that Texas finished number one in the Big 12 in defense in 2023, that was largely predicated on the fact they had by a huge margin, 50 yards per game advantage on the ground. And look, I know sacks in college football count against run defense, and that certainly helped Texas the amount of sacks they were able to get. But when you discount all that in terms of their pass defense, in terms of passing yardage surrendered, they were actually bottom half in the Big 12. And look, we know Big 12 has some good offensive football. SEC is a whole completely another level in terms of elite level offensive talent. And certainly if Texas wants to go even further than they did this past season, actually win a national title, they're going to have to shore up their pass defense. And in today's day and age, I think the best way to do it, because quarterback play is getting better and better. A lot of teams are stacked with an army of receivers. It's hard unless you have just a great cadre of elite corners, which is just, I don't want to say a luck of the draw, but a lot of it is luck and timing, just having three or four great corners all at the same time. The reality is you need to have an army of great pass rushers. And that's exactly what Moore is. He's 6'3", 242 pounds, coming out of Texas, going to UTSA. He was one of UTSA's biggest recruits they've gotten in a very long time. There was some connection with the program. I'm not exactly sure why he chose the Roadrunners over a team like the Longhorns in the past, but that is in the past. This guy has all kinds of athleticism to beat offensive tackles off the edge. He's quick. He's explosive. He reminds me, and I know this is a stretch here a little bit, of DeMarcus Ware when he was at Troy, then went to the Dallas Cowboys and the Denver Broncos, obviously had a Hall of Fame career. I think Moore has the opportunity to have that same kind of trajectory, a speed athletic pass rusher that can generate negative plays for this Texas defense. And that's exactly what they're going to need as to go up against these incredible SEC offenses, right? Everyone loves to talk SEC defense. It's the SEC high-powered offenses that have really risen to the top of the college football world. And a guy like Trey Moore getting off to such a strong start is going to be huge for Texas because they're going to need him to have a big impact in those big games this fall.
Yeah, Nick, and you go back and you think, I really like the point you bring up about you can have, a lot of different things on defense, but edge rusher seems to be the most effective. As we think of teams, we go back a few years, you think about that Cincinnati team. They're actually absolutely stacked at corner. They had some of the best corners in the country, but they went up against some really good offenses and they still got the brakes beat off of them. And it just really just got outclassed. Even if they had Sauce Gardner, one of the best corners in the NFL right now, they still didn't stand a chance against other teams. So I think what you said, you got to think two steps ahead, get those pass rushers. You sign a five-star who I think he's probably going to contribute early this season, but he is more of a long-term play as well. But also get a guy like Trey Moore to come in and really help bolster things right from the get-go, get him off to a fast start. Like I said, he's working really hard. He has great work ethic, got that chip on his shoulder, wanting to prove that he can play with the big dogs. I think that this is a phenomenal approach by the Longhorns. I'm glad this guy is getting off to a quick start because, like you said, they needed it, and this is how they are going to compete in the SEC. They have to hit on all cylinders out of the gate. Otherwise, it isn't going to be pretty. But I think they've done a great job of adjusting this team to coming into the SEC and hitting SEC play. I think they're going to do very good. And I'm really excited to see what the Longhorns are able to accomplish because we all know this is a team most likely going to make the college football playoff. And I think with the way they've adjusted, they have a chance to make a deep run.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I want to give a little credit though to Coach Sark here a little bit for having a clear stylistic type at edge rusher and really focusing on that. I talked about being more about 6'3", 240 pounds. If you look at Simmons, the five-star I believe you're alluding to, he's listed according to 24/7 Sports at 6'3", 230. So it's clear Texas has a type. They're going for speed, explosive edge rushers to create havoc in opposing offenses' backfields to get after the quarterback. They're not looking for the old school complete defensive end, play the run, play the pass. They're looking for pass rushers to get sacks, force fumbles, deflections, interceptions. That is their strategy. I think it's the right one to take in today's college football world, and I think will pay big dividends, starting with more early and then Simmons catching on later in the regular season.